Undertale is a beautiful game. If you know my channel, you know how much I definitely glaze this game. It's something that's very near and dear to my heart. Same thing with Deltarune. It's something that's also very near and dear to my heart because Toby Fox just creates masterpieces. I think that's all this man can genuinely create at this point, is just masterpiece after masterpiece. Obviously, we're still in the same universe and realm of Undertale, but that's not the point of what I really want to talk about today. The point is, well, it's kind of weird that Undertale is a game about making choices, and obviously the game always tries to steer you going in the right direction. It doesn't really like you going into the bad route. You know, we don't want to speed run into that route, right? It's all about making friends. And yet, YouTubers, I'm afraid y'all, should not be your friends. Something I just want to quickly talk about, and I'm not going to yap too much about this, but I do think that this is very important to talk about because I feel like the parasocial relationships of YouTubers and viewers are starting to get very out of hand, and it's a huge reason why a lot of things, like what has happened with Sheay, are popping up. And now I do want to very much preface this and say this is in no way, shape, or form saying, oh, well, if you know, the viewers and his fans, if they didn't get close to Sheay, then none of this would happen. That's not the point of what I'm trying to make here. But I also do really want to stress that YouTubers are in a higher position of power, typically, right? And so they know that when they are talking with you, and they know when they are doing whatever with a fan, they should have some level of responsibility on their end, because they should know, hey, I'm a person who has some sort of influence, and quite frankly, they're gonna have more influence than their viewers. It's just how it is. So of course people can feel peer pressured, they can feel very uncomfortable in certain situations, but they'll do it anyways because they don't want to anger essentially what is their idol, or somebody that they really look up to. And that's why I want to tell y'all this, folks. Do not look up to YouTubers as friends. And this is honestly kind of hard for me to say because I've known a lot of my viewers for a very long time. I've been doing YouTube for a while now, right? I've been doing YouTube very casually. I wish I could do it more, but very casually since high school. I've now already graduated college and have an adult job. But you know what? With that, I've met so many cool different people from all over the world, different just people with personalities, and just people I know I would have never met if it weren't for this platform. And for that, I am very thankful for it. But at the same time, I do know my limit. I know that I can't go in these people's DMs and just constantly be like, hey, like, let's be friends, let's do this and that. Now, of course, if the person is an adult and I form a connection with that, I do feel like there is a difference there. That you can make a potential friendship out of someone who you have met through your streams if they are around the same age. I do think that is fair, but there is a line that gets crossed when a YouTuber decides to be friends with someone whose age is really far apart from yours, okay? I could not imagine chatting it up and trying to be friends with someone who was, quite frankly, really and truly under 21, but definitely under 18. The age difference is just too far, and the maturity difference between that is just too far. If we're taking out everything else, right, just even the weird factors that some of these YouTubers want, because apparently they're doing more than grooming 2 Persian cats out here, right?
Toxic gossip train, the locomotives fueled with hateful accusations.
They're definitely grooming a lot more than that. If we take out that kind of factor and just put it out there and be like, okay, an adult and a minor playing together is still weird in itself, because why do you not have any friends who are around your age that you can play with? that is a red flag in itself. And I'm not saying this as a diss to people who cannot necessarily find friends, or I'm not dissing people who are having a hard time making friends in their age group. It happens. I mean, hey, I still struggle with trying to find people I can fully relate to in one way or another. I'm very thankful that I do have people that I can rely on. And I am very thankful that I can have a social life outside of YouTube. But even if I didn't, I do still have that responsibility regardless, just to be like, okay, I understand that you are underage. I have to keep an arm's distance from you. I can be friendly with you. Hell, I even have a thing where I say I can play with you on stream because I feel comfortable there, but I would not play off stream with someone willingly knowing that they are a minor. That's just not what's going to happen, because not only does that lead into a lot of weird territory, but it's just weird in general, man. It really is. And so, unfortunately, guys, I wish I could tell you that we can all just sit around the campfire singing campfire songs and sing Kumbaya, my lord, but that's just not what happens, okay? And it's very evident with Sheay that this is not what happens. When I first heard about Sheay, I was like, oh God, like, what happened? What happened this time, right? And I could assume, because unfortunately I think we do know where our minds wander when we hear that somebody got in trouble for something, and unfortunately those assumptions were correct. And not only were they correct, they were undoubtedly really correct. And it's kind of crazy because I'm usually someone that's like, hey, let's listen to both sides first because I don't want to be jumping guns. But when you have a document that's over 200 pages long and over 20 people have spoken out about you, that says a lot. That says a lot. And I don't think that anything that Sheay can pretty much say can defend them at this point. And it really is a big blow to the Undertale and Deltarune community. Right, I did not watch Sheay personally, but I knew about Sheay. I always heard about Sheay just because I'm neck deep in the fandom. Of course, I heard about them and was like, oh, okay, cool. An Undertale Deltarune speedrunner. I really haven't heard much of that before. So I was like, okay, cool. You know, live your life. Do what you want to do. But apparently, the way that they were living their lives was not the way that any adult should be living their lives. You know what I'm saying? And I do see a lot of people saying this now, like, oh, wow, like the Undertale community is in shambles and this and that. And while it is very heartbreaking to see this, I do feel like we have to stress a point here and say that Sheay is not the figurehead of Undertale and Deltarune, right? I mean, if we want to put anybody on that pedestal, I do feel like Toby Fox and Temmie are the perfect people to put on there, because obviously with them creating the games, having a lot of influence, okay, like I could see if people are like, you know what, I don't want to touch Undertale and Deltarune now if they were really problematic. I can see that. But guys, I feel like a lot of people are putting Sheay on this pedestal and being like, oh, well, look, now it's this, and like, oh, yep, this is the Undertale community, of course, you know, and I quite frankly hate that rhetoric. I really do, because this happened a lot in the Friday Night Funkin' community. Now, don't get me wrong. Did Friday Night Funkin' have a lot of creeps and weirdos? Oh, yeah, for sure. I even had a long discussion about this in a prior video. I'll pop this up here. But I did talk about that and just like fandoms in general. And of course, you know, Undertale was in there as well. But it's just, guys, whenever you are in a large fandom, and I don't really care what fandom that is, it could be almost anything, you're gonna find problematic people. The more popular something is, the more likely you're going to run into someone that's problematic. And so, for example, in the peak days of FNF, that was probably the biggest fandom I've ever been in, because it encompassed so many different fandoms all together. Whether that was the FNAF community, the Undertale community, rhythm gaming people, and just all these different people who wanted to make mods you know, if they saw a character they like, they're like, oh, okay, now I'm interested in Friday Night Funkin', even though if they weren't into like rhythm games in general, you know what I'm saying? And unfortunately, this is the loud minority. I really want to stress this and say that whenever we hear situations like this, I really want y'all just to take a step back and realize, okay, this is a loud minority group of people, right? While Sheay was a big influence, while Sheay did have a lot of just stuff going on within the Undertale and Deltarune community, Sheay was once again not the figurehead of this community. And we should not just look at one person to be like, oh, you decide what this whole community is going to look like. That is not fair, because a lot of the community now, honestly, is pretty good, I would say. You know, go back into the early days or when Markiplier played, no. Like, there's definitely a lot of people who get pissed off about playthroughs. Okay, whatever have you, right? But for the most part, there wasn't a lot of, like, really bad stuff. This probably took the cake on it for being one of the worst incidents in the fandom. So, I just want to say, though, that despite all that and all this negativity, first off, I am very sorry to whoever is affected by this, because I know there's quite a few people that I do know that were really affected by this. And that really sucks, because this was someone that, again, people looked up to, people enjoyed their content, and they had to go and ruin it this way, right? But again, this is why I say let's not create parasocial relationships with YouTubers to such an extent that we think that they're friends, or we put them on a pedestal and think, yep, this is how they are. Because guys, at the end of the day, everybody puts on a persona and a different personality for YouTube. It's just what people do. People will tell you, oh no, I'm the real authentic me and this and that. And to a degree that might be true, but you are going to put on usually people put on a more showboaty personality more than anything. I'll tell you that. I do that myself. I ham up myself all the time. I make myself like really eccentric, and I'm not saying that I can't be eccentric, because I can, but also, you know, I know I'm doing YouTube. I know I have an audience, so I don't want to be like, yeah, guys, like, yeah, this game was fun. I'll be like, yeah, well, let me tell you why this game was fun. And you know, I make it to a point, right? So this is why I'm telling y'all, honestly, at the end of the day, we do not know who people are, especially on YouTube, right? We don't know what they're like behind closed doors. So, again, the point of the matter stands that YouTubers are not your friends. And also, don't be making people out to be idols or these figureheads of said community and letting them ruin your own experience, because again, Sheay is just one person in this whole entire community. We saw how the community banded together and was like, you're disgusting, don't ever come back into here. And I think that does speak volumes about the community itself, being at the very bare minimum, calling it out, saying how bad it is, and letting people know that we don't stand for this type of behavior. So again, I do apologize for anybody who has been affected by this. I'm sure that this has been a lot to take in. But at the end of the day, guys, it's unfortunately not uncommon nowadays as more and more people become YouTubers and more people have access to other people that they can take advantage of. But have hope that there are still a lot of good people out there. I truly do believe that. And I do believe that, again, the Undertale and Deltarune community as it stands now is in a good place. We just got to move past this. Again, call anything out when you see it, but I think we can move past this and be like, you know what, we can rebuild from this. Let's not linger on this anymore, because this was just one person who did something nasty. With that said, guys, thank y'all so much for listening to my rant. I will talk with y'all later. Take care. God bless all the good stuff. Peace.